We're here. We're live. We're feeling great and excited. And anyways, are you actually there? Because I can't hear you right now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, well, make me feel the fucking dead air all day, why don't you?
Well, I do like to see you work.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't work very well when it comes to talking. At least not to myself. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll take your word for it, but I can honestly say that I've seen the contrary. So.
Yeah. Anyways, so first topic tonight: social media booting Alex Jones. Was it legal? Was it wrong? Was it right? Did Alex Jones deserve it? Do other people not get it? All right, Josh, why don't you start off by throwing out your fucking points?
Okay. So to begin with, I understand that what happened was legal with Alex Jones, but the question is, was it fair? And that would be based off of whether the rule has been applied evenly within the time that the rule has been established. And that would be no.
Well, we always knew this, especially about YouTube in particular, because YouTube really does favor big channels over small channels when it comes to their things. But Alex Jones is someone who has gotten multiple copyright strikes, or not copyright strikes, but community guideline strikes, like multiple times. And they always tend to forgive them, whereas a small creator wouldn't get that kind of forgiveness. So in the end, people have been more, or YouTube in particular has been more lenient on Alex Jones than they have been on other content creators.
So you would claim, but that's a really strange claim to make on account of the fact that they eventually booted him for all the things that he's been doing for 10 years or so.
Yeah, no, and I get what you're saying, but generally when you get banned from a service, it means you're banned for life. Now, there's a lot of small content creators who find ways around that by creating a new account and never getting caught, and they probably never will, but Alex Jones would get caught every single time he tries to create a new channel. Because he's big, he's Alex Jones. I mean, Jesus Christ, half of America at least knows who he is.
So what you're saying is they've been very lenient with him, giving him many chances to stop what he's been doing, except for he's stayed there for long enough to become huge
He
over a
was
decade or
huge
so.
before he was on YouTube. YouTube's not what made Alex Jones huge. He was a big
But,
radio personality well before then.
but do you argue the fact that he's been there for years?
Yeah, at least a decade.
Do you argue the fact that he has done the same thing consistently?
Yes, he has.
So you're saying,
But this
okay,
was
so
more
you're,
of a fed up situation. I mean, this all started. I'm trying to recall correctly who started it. I think it was Apple. Well, it all started with YouTube originally because YouTube's the put him under probation, if you would say, about 2-3 weeks ago or so, where they basically took away. Go ahead.
It started with the Senate.
The Senate.
Mm-hmm.
With what do you mean?
Well, didn't you hear about the hearings involving how, what was it? Facebook had been botted by the Russians.
Yes, I've heard about all that.
Okay, so
how does this lead back to Alex Jones?
essentially, once the question comes up of what is appropriate to be having on the screen or what people are supposed to be seeing and what they're not supposed to be seeing, it ultimately comes down to who gets to decide these things. Well, the Congress can't necessarily decide that because that would be illegal. But one thing they can do is try to pressure people into doing it for them. And how they do that is by pressuring the companies, making it seem as though there's a public outcry for something that there isn't, simply because they want it gone.
So what you're saying is because there's a public outcry about fake news going around on social media prior to the 2016, that Alex Jones seemed like the perfect scapegoat.
No, not necessarily. He's not a scapegoat. He's exactly what they say he is. He's a person who spouts conspiracy theories. But
Yes.
what I argue is that's no different than the people who are already there. And the claim that they make, conspiracy theories in particular, is not what their issue is. They say hate speech. Well,
Hate speech.
I can make the claim that many things are hate speech by the same standards that Facebook has. Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, all of them. By their same standard, they should be banning many, many, many more people.
And Discuss was announced today too, which is I don't know if you know what Discuss is. It's a comment service.
Never heard of it.
If you've commented on Breitbart, you've used it.
Never used it.
Okay, well, most websites, when you make a comment, you have to sign up with Discuss, and then you basically get on and you log in through that program, and then they moderate the chat from there. Well, today they announced that they are no longer going to run the chat service for InfoWars or any of InfoWars' domain affiliates.
Okay.
So as of right now, I do not think InfoWars has any chat service. So you cannot discuss videos afterwards.
So if I understand correctly, he violated their terms of service too?
Yeah, they were a bit more vague, but just general hate speech stuff.
Mm-hmm. So how many of these things have to happen before you begin to think that there's a problem?
Well, I'm not saying there isn't a problem. The problem is, in general, the fact that we're trying to limit these platforms that 5 years ago were great places and open forums for discussion. And now they're starting to go to the point where, oh, they got to be media friendly. They got to be advertiser friendly. Everything you have to say. You can't use the F word. No, then you're demonetized. Oh, you want to talk about your crazy conspiracy theory this week? Well, screw you. You're banned. I don't agree with that. But we're not in that perfect world anymore. We are stuck in a world where they have rules, and Alex Jones clearly broke the rules. Will you agree with that, at least? Did Alex Jones break the rules?
Absolutely. I've never denied that he broke the rules.
Yeah.
I propose that if he broke the rules, then many more have as well.
Look, it's hard to disagree with you on that because there's a plethora of examples. Wow, I used the big word there, plethora. But there's a giant list of examples of what you're talking about.
I compiled them. Yes.
Yes. Jesus Christ, I have this huge list sent from him. I don't know if I can show you guys this, but it's ridiculous. All our no viewers, but There. If you can see anything on there, there you go. Look in that corner where he is. It should be there. Anyways. But...
Well, to be fair, a couple of those names are double names for some reason. They copy and paste doubled them. But anyways, basically what I found is anything that is gangster rap or just generally hardcore rap related is a violation of
the and I don't want this to get to the point where we're knocking out, you know, music creators and things like that because, you know,
well, we've already
Eminem. What do you mean?
If they did it to Alex Jones, they must do it to everyone now.
Yeah, and it might actually happen. And I'm not cool with that. I'm not. Look,
I'm very cool with it.
Thrilled with seeing Alex Jones going off the air. Or at least off of YouTube. I'm okay with... I don't like the guy. I don't like his content. So...
Well, hold on. On a side note, what particularly do you find distasteful?
I find distasteful the fact that he convinces so many people about these conspiracy theories and talks to them about them like they're completely 100% real. And sure, he might throw a little sliver of wording in there and stuff, but I have heard so many Republicans, conservatives, whatever the hell you want to call them, come up to me and tell me that these just crazy asinine stories like Pizzagate, flies around Hillary Clinton, making her the devil, you know, Sandy Hook was an inside job. Hell, there is a video of a clip from Alex Jones's radio show back in 2000, on January 1st, 2000, having people talk about how Y2K just went down. Like, he literally has people call in and say that their power plant in town looks like it's about to explode and all this stuff, and how he's down there on the streets. It's a hell of a watch if you ever get a chance.
Interesting. So, would you do me a favor? Are you able to pull up an image without anyone, or I mean, to show everyone?
Yeah, but I'd have to... It's easier to do it on Chrome without me having to mess around with things.
Do it however you want. Would you kindly pull up the painting of the president for the Smithsonian? Or Smithsonian, yeah.
How the hell do I spell Smithsonian? So, Donald Trump, I'm assuming, right?
No, Barack Obama.
Barack Obama. Painting. Oh, Smithsonian. There you go.
And would you close up, or if it's possible to zoom in, could you point out his hands and tell me what you see?
Large hands.
He's sitting in the chair, right?
Yeah, with his hands crossed.
Have you noticed that I can't remember the name for the bone, but he has two right hands?
Nuh-uh.
Do you see it?
Hi. Let me see. Yeah, he does. Because, so, it's definitely two right hands.
This is actually an important thing, because it's referencing a Muslim, what do you call that, myth, called the two right-handed king or prince or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can look it up real quick. Basically, the painter of the painting is a person of some renown for his sort of like strange proclivities, and this is some sort of prophecy that I suppose he is suggesting that Barack Obama fills for the Muslim faith. So now that we're talking about conspiracy theories, here's a new one for you.
Okay.
And there's evidence for it. So what are you going to do about it? Now, should we be banned as well? Because there seems to be evidence. And if you've ever watched Alex Jones's channel, he always presents at least some middling evidence to prove what he's saying.
No, I get what you're saying. Look, in 2016, during the election, will you admit that there was a problem where there was a large amount of fake news going around?
2016, yes. They were claiming that Donald Trump wasn't saying things that he should be, and that he was saying things that he wasn't. Yeah, I was fooled into this too.
Yeah. You're talking left side there, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Like the denouncement of David Duke?
Yeah. No, I remember that, because he did denounce the guy, and then they're all like, no, he didn't. He never denounced him. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they cut it out, yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually denounced it multiple times over his lifetime on camera, and they just didn't choose to play it. Not to mention, there's also the Hillary leaks, or not the Hillary leaks. The what do you call that? The video, the grab him by the pussy thing.
Well, what about that? There's nothing fake there.
No, I'm just saying that is abnormal. There was a 10-year-old video that someone's been sitting on for 10 years, and they waited and they waited.
Yeah, no, they did. They moved this ad on the video and waited until it was relevant, and then popped it out there.
Until they were basically an evil clown monster was running against the golden chosen one from Barack Obama.
He was also an employee of NBC at the time that this went down.
You mean a partner?
Yes, however you want to look at it, but yes. He worked for NBC. NBC did not want this video getting out to begin with during that time period. When the election came out. Well, the election came out, obviously they threw it out there. Because it would make news. It would help sell things.
They didn't put their name behind it. So it just suddenly appeared for all the news organizations. So it's strange how that works.
Yeah, well, it's also how it works. I mean, when a video gets put out, it usually goes straight to the AP, and the AP distributes it accordingly. That
is, nowadays, if it's going to hurt Trump. I mean, that's most of the thing. But regardless, we're getting off topic. Alex Jones. Alex Jones is true a conspiracy theorist, but he's not the only one. As I just pointed out. There's another conspiracy theorist who painted the president and made that into our history. There are conspiracy theories upon conspiracy theories, and he's just reporting on them. At least he provides evidence and the sources. He's just not making them up. Someone's coming up to him and talking.
But the real problem is the fact that everyone just sits there and believes anything this man says.
Everyone believes anything this man says. Okay.
Yes.
Are the frogs gay?
There's some truth to that one, apparently.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Are they... But they're making the frogs gay. They're making them gay.
So there is some truth to it, but it's not the truth that he's saying. Okay. So, but here's the problem. If there's a core of truth to it, right? If there's something there, and then he interprets it however he wants, he adds it to this great clandestine globalist conspiracy. And he just keeps adding pieces to it, okay? That's his own personal thing. And he's on camera, and he's entertaining. And that's all he needs to be. But once he makes a claim, is there a proof? And he has shown the proof when it has come to it. Now, when he did the Sandy Hook thing, was he just sort of spitballing ideas, or were people calling in and talking about it? Was he having dialogue?
It was a dialogue, yes.
Okay, so then he wasn't putting out lies. He was talking about people who had theories. And these theories, I mean, do you think they were lying, or do you think they actually believed them?
I think a lot of those people actually believed it.
So then you are upset that Alex Jones shared things that people believed.
I like how you're trying to entrap me here.
It's not an entrapment, it's an accurate statement. You were upset with Alex Jones for popularizing things that people believe.
It's more like reporting it as if it's real news, not reporting it as it was conspiracy theory.
It is real news. What is you know what? What is real news? Tell me.
Well, it's generally going on and watching a debate about something, or looking up a news story, or anything like that. It's not something that's complete speculation. And if it is speculation, it needs to be advertised as such.
So, you're saying that he didn't advertise it as a Sandy Hook conspiracy?
I'm saying that whether he did or not, there's legit people harassing people from the Sandy Hook event. You know, there's people... There's those Sandy Hook parents, they get death threats all the time over this. And they're not trying to be in the spotlight. It's not like they're sitting there, you know, Anita Sarkeesian it up or anything.
Well, that may be true, but ultimately, whose responsibility is it to prevent those things?
Well, probably the police.
So why are you punishing Alex Jones for something the police should be doing?
You know what? You've got me there, man. you really... It's hard for me to argue this whole point because, well, I don't like what he's doing. I think the world is a worse place if he isn't allowed to do what he's doing.
Well, that's an important thing because he actually served a purpose. So let's just say there was somebody out there who thought maybe the Sandy Hook thing was a conspiracy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on that show and he listens to the dialogue about it. He can still come away from it thinking that maybe I'm wrong about this. Those arguments didn't convince me. But here's the problem with the modern news cycle as it is. John Lemon says the president's racist. Everyone knows this. Let's move on. And that's what happens. LeBron James says, I'm never going to sit across from the president. No one asks him why. He just says it.
Yeah.
And then let's move on. Like, we are supposed to accept as fact the opinions that they present, and they don't share them as if they were opinions. They share them as if they were facts. And maybe Alex Jones can be accountable for doing that, but as far as I can tell, he does it far less, because I can go onto his website and I can look up an article that he holds up on screen, pointing to and slapping to and screaming at, like, and I can at least find that information, which I have done for the frogs, which I have done for the Sandy Hook thing. And to tell you the truth, I'm not convinced that it's a conspiracy. I think that it was some dude who lost his mind and went and killed some kids. But I've heard all this stuff, and I came out the other end not affected.
All right, well, let's push this up to what happened recently. Apparently, there was some kind of death threat against, oh God, who the fuck was it? I'm trying to look into this. Shows in recent weeks about InfoWars should be granted carte blanche on big social medias. Oh man, I had this all figured out. Now I can't figure out where the hell I put it. But
Don't take your time.
Yeah, but basically, the deal was he made a threat against, I think it was Robert Mueller, basically in a very awkward way. Let me check this out. Hold on,
I put the video online for you.
Oh, you have the video?
Yeah, I found it. Yeah.
Hold on.
I think it was yesterday.
Jones. Fucking Mueller threat.
And if you can't find it, I can show you where it is on the thread.
Alright, yeah. Real quick here. Some great video quality production here. Alright, where's it at here?
Okay, so do you
YouTube,
see the
Apple remove? Oh, go ahead.
last Tuesday, 2:15?
Let me see here. So yesterday at 2:15, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's see, where did it go?
I'm too far ahead right now. Boo boo.
Dang it.
Yeah, I know. It's just such a mess in here.
No, my computer's frozen.
Oh, you broke it?
God, I hope not.
It's done. You destroyed your computer. It's over. Over, I tell you. Alright. Anti-Young Turk, the Trump. Which video was it? Do you remember?
Yeah. He makes a. Let's see. It was after we talked.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. Come on. Just do what I tell you.
Just hit it a few times. It'll work, I promise.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. YouTube, Apple removed for content. It's right below Donald Trump's face. On after 5 p.m. I think.
After 5. Okay. So it starts with YouTube. All shooting. Oprah.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg.
So, no, you're too low. You're too low. Go up. It's last Monday. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I'm too low. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex Jones. Yeah, it's YouTube, Apple, Facebook removed from InfoWars. Yeah. Remove content from InfoWars.
What time did you say?
Monday, 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Yeah, on Monday, 5 p.m. you sent something. And then if you go below that, you'll see Donald Trump's face. And it's right before the evening. So, yeah. Are you saying Monday at all?
Yes, I'm in Monday. I'm at 8 o'clock on Monday. Jesus Christ. All right, 5:13. Okay. Here we go.
And, all right, you see Alex Jones's face?
Yeah.
It's right below Trump's face.
Yep. Found it. YouTube, yep. Apple. Yep, got it. All right. Jesus Christ. All right, so, where's the video at? Do you remember?
Where was the video at?
Oh, or is it just okay? Oh, hey, it's just playing. Jesus Christ. Okay.
That should be it.
Yep. What we do know is there's a cover-up going on.
Facebook has removed 4 pages associated with Alex Jones's conspiracy theory site, InfoWars. Apparently it was taken down for glorifying violence and dehumanizing language. I wonder what dehumanizing language means.
Well, there should... Whoa.
Jesus Christ, man. There's
sounds
nothing.
like Klingon.
Oh, here we go.
Like, sounds like Klingon.
He's speaking Klingon right now, Jared. He's speaking Klingon. It's amazing. You know, all bad things said about Alex Jones. At least he's entertaining. At least he's entertaining.
And aides to congressmen are being fired for pointing out these kids look like actors.
In all reality,
Saturday morning special.
The big thing that happened was that he threatened, basically in a very obscure way, to shoot someone. It was like, you know...
No. What he said was, and I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was that Robert Mueller has essentially done some stuff with assisting people who are pedophiles.
Yes.
In a legal sense. And he said that, I think that Robert Mueller's clean, though, but I would still shoot him at high noon, politically speaking.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying, but apparently that was too much for YouTube, Facebook, and...
you know that's bullshit, right?
What do you mean? You think so?
Yeah, I mean, I could go online right now.
Here's exactly what I think happened. I think, you know, the first one shut him down, which I think was Apple. Apple completely banned them first. That was the first one to completely ban them off their platform. And then
that's the problem.
Everybody went, you mean we can actually do this now? And went ahead and did it themselves. Because they were sick and tired of spending time and resources on dealing with his material.
That's 100% correct. And that's why it's inconsistent, and that's why it's wrong.
Well, again, it was inconsistent to begin with because they were spending so much time on his material. If this was any other crap creator, it would have just been banned instantly. It wouldn't have taken them a year to go around and ban it. It wouldn't have taken them 10 years to figure out that maybe this was too much. They would have banned him instantly. So he was already getting special treatment.
No, it wasn't special treatment. He never violated their terms of service. It's not special treatment not to violate something.
He did violate their terms of service multiple times. You even agreed with that yourself earlier on in this conversation.
Again, he has violated their terms of service in the past.
Yes.
And this occurrence is a violation because they claim it to be. But what I'm saying, in actuality, he did not. Okay, so in reality, there is no evidence that this particular instance that they're citing, was enough to violate their terms of service when there are other examples on the site.
Well,
they
sure as heck thought so.
Yeah, that's obvious because he's gone. But I'm saying if they've allowed him to continue, okay, that means that they have consented to his presence, does it not?
I do not agree with that. No. That means they're still making money off of him. They want to make the most amount of money possible. I get that.
So you do not agree that they have consented to his presence?
No, previously. I believe that they consented to his presence for money. At this point, the cost of keeping him and the cost of not keeping him was not enough. You know, the difference between the two figures here. The money he was making versus the cost keeping him started to go the other way. I mean, they couldn't monetize half his videos. They couldn't monetize half of his Facebook comments because the advertisers didn't want shit to do with it. So why keep him around at that point?
That's not true. They advertise. There are many advertisers that were willing to use Alex Jones. There's many advertisers that have him endorse things.
Yeah, but they're not the advertisers that are currently partnered with YouTube, Facebook, and all that. They're partnered with people like M&M's and stuff like that who don't want to deal in controversy at all. And YouTube's spending all this money and these man hours here to keep his content on, to go through the list of complaints and all this stuff and figure out which is legit and which isn't.
Well, to my knowledge, according to Alex Jones at least, he had not intended to receive money from YouTube for a while now, and had been receiving money instead from other resources like his products.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, YouTube is basically just paying to have him on there.
That's their problem, essentially.
Yeah, but they believe me, that's more than enough to fire the guy or let him go.
So what you're saying is that the platform should be allowed to... I mean, not should be allowed. It should be allowed to do whatever it wanted. But you're saying that it is okay for the platform not to tell anyone that once you become too much of an inconvenience, we'll figure out a way to get rid of you.
No, I don't think it's okay. Let's reiterate this here. I do not think it's okay. I think that's exactly what happened.
Oh, I agree.
Yes.
That is exactly what
I think that's exactly what happened. I don't think there's anything illegal about it.
I think there's a component that you're missing. Okay. So not only did they do it because it might be a costly expenditure of their time or whatever, but also because they're virtue signaling.
I don't think that has much to do with it. I really don't. No, I think this was pure 100% a business decision.
Okay. So you're saying that he's violated their terms of service multiple times?
Yes, and they are spending money keeping him on their platform to go through and moderate every single video he posts, or every single Facebook post he posts, or Twitter post he posts, all that stuff. He's going through them all. They're going through every single one of these. They are spending tons of man hours on this, and they're not making enough money to justify that at this point. So they have been looking for the excuse for probably a little while now to fully get him out. And that's exactly what happened.
So you're saying that previously that him violating their terms of service wasn't enough to kick him out?
No, because previously they were using advertisers that didn't care as much. Now all these big companies are starting to become mainstream. They're becoming actual media companies, and they don't have editors. They have algorithms to decide what is appropriate for media content and what is appropriate for not advertiser content. And at this point, they only throw people, editors, quote unquote, at the big creators. And they decided that keeping this big creator on their platform was more costly than what they were making.
And may I ask why you've changed your story?
What do you mean?
Well, before you said that they now saw the opportunity to get rid of him, and now you're suggesting that basically he was...
They've been wanting to, but I think they were concerned about how it would make them look. And the second that Apple said they don't give a fuck about it, everybody else was like, oh, great, neither do we then. Because they figured they could take the media hit at this point.
Wouldn't preventing him from receiving ads solve that problem?
Would still cost them money.
How?
Because they still have to decide what is acceptable according to their TOS and what isn't in his videos constantly. I mean, there would still be constant moderation whether you want to or not.
Don't they do that for every big channel?
And also, let's not forget, they do pay for these server farms to put this information on. I mean, Alex Jones' content alone probably costs them $1 million a year to keep on. Well, maybe not $1 million, but a couple $100,000.
To do what?
To keep it there. I mean... It costs money for data storage.
So you're saying that because it costs money for data storage, it's appropriate to get rid of somebody?
I think if they're not making money off of it, yes. If they're spending money on it, and they're not, then they would.
Well, if only they would have mentioned that in their terms of service.
Well, they don't get down to the technical details in the terms of service. But your original question, though, was, do I think this has anything to do with the fact that they're more left-wing? And the answer is no, I really don't. I mean, I can seriously come up with a full reason for this, for monetary reasons, not for political.
Okay, so give me an example of what he violated.
It's just... Okay, the threatening to shoot someone, even if it is in a joke, that's definitely a violation.
Okay. Well, that's not why he was kicked off. He was kicked off for hate speech.
Yes, which counts as hate speech. And the word that they used was like
So
dehumanize. When users violate policies repeatedly, like our policy...
they add that he mentioned trying to hurt somebody? Why is that even important if they kicked him off for hate speech?
Well, they kicked them off because... I see what you're doing here. Because they were looking for a lot of reasons.
Oh.
They're not looking for one.
They
want this to look like they had no choice at this point.
Ah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
And so they just went with hate speech?
Yeah, hate speech is a very general term, and it's easy to use without too much legal problems. You get what I'm saying?
You cut out there for a moment. You said hate speech is a very general term.
Yeah, it's easy for them to use without having to worry about too many legal problems afterwards.
And do you know what, if I say that I'm trying to bring awareness about hate speech, what am I saying?
You are saying that... Well, okay. So, if you're trying to bring awareness about hate speech, you are saying that you are trying to bring awareness about things you do not that you disagree with.
Yeah, that's essentially correct. So, hate speech is whatever you disagree with, and this company just says that we disagree with him. So
yes, but they have put in some definitions for hate speech. I mean, anything that causes harassment, violence, anything that can lead, like anything that's like offensive to one kind of people, things like that. Anti-Muslim sentiments are generally considered hate speech. Anti-black sentiments are generally considered hate speeches. Things like that. I mean,
so all criticism.
Not criticisms, but things that are used to explain why you don't like a group of people.
Criticism.
Not in the sense that you're criticizing someone for like a goal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like you're just criticizing someone for, like, you don't like gay people. I don't like them. I just wish that they were not gay. That's hate speech, man.
Why?
Because you're sitting there completely harassing a group of people that have no control over what happened to them.
In the scenario that you provided, you've just indicated that this person that we're talking about has said to someone, I just don't like gay people. I wish they weren't gay.
Yes.
That's harassing somebody?
That's considered hate speech.
Why? Who's it hurting? Who's it hating?
The gay person.
It's expressing that that person personally wishes that gay people would just be straight.
Yes. My example is pretty pathetic, man. Get off me.
Well, I mean, no, your example would be considered hate speech.
Yes.
That's my point.
Like,
it qualifies as hate speech. But what you're actually saying is, I'm supporting the gay people. That's what you're intending to say by saying that I wish saying that a person wishing gay people would just be straight is hate speech, is saying I'm with gay people. That's what you're saying. That's why it's hate speech. Because if you label it hate speech, that means that I'm on the side of the good guys.
Man, what? I'm lost.
Okay.
Well, you're going to have to backtrack.
Alex Jones was kicked off of YouTube for hate speech.
He was kicked off of YouTube for multiple violations of hate speech that YouTube has determined were hate speech offenses.
Do you think these violations occurred at the exact same time or over the course of his service?
Over the course of his service.
Okay, so they're irrelevant as it refers to this because they've been forgiven. That's what the point is,
No,
right?
No. It says multiple violations in their terms of condition. It doesn't matter whether they're...
Say again?
It doesn't matter whether they happened now or 10 years ago and were forgiven then. It just says multiple violations. So, in their terms of condition... As far as
the company's concerned, do they hold it against you, okay, if they have punished you and then released you from punishment?
Yes.
Okay, so anybody who has been punished for putting something inappropriate on there, that doesn't have a little clause in there that we understand that people make mistakes and that we'll forgive this.
No, but they do things to
No,
help
but they what?
get
No,
there.
you said no. They don't have that.
No, they do not have a. They have a, like, you get it put on probation or whatever, and then after your time of
Wait,
probation.
hold on a second. You just said that there is no probation, and now you're saying there is.
There is a probation. There always
So there
has
is a
been.
probation.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a period of time that you can be forgiven.
Not okay. Hold on. Let me just pull this up here. YouTube terms of use video posting. That is not what I was looking for. that's the long version. Well, here.
You pulled it up. You read it off the thing.
YouTube community guidelines. Here we go. Policies, YouTube. Yeah, that's a video. Where is the thing I pulled up the other day that I should have saved? Okay, here we go. Multiple strikes. If you receive your first strike on your account, here's what happens. It explains first strike, second strike, and third strike. If your account receives 3 community guideline strikes within a 3-month period, your account will be terminated. Appealing strikes, blah, blah, blah. And it basically tells you how to do that. So, if you receive 3 strikes in a 3-month period, it can be done. But you can also be banned for having multiple strikes. And it doesn't give a time period for that. So
it doesn't say how many strikes either.
No. Let me see here. Because I read this the other night here. Oh my god. It's great how you can find everything when you're not doing this. But basically, the way that it reads is that you can be banned for having multiple strikes, and that's literally all it says.
Right, and that's my point. Okay,
yeah, it's very vague.
Yes, that's my point. So I understand that they've created the clause in their own terms of service. Then they wouldn't violate their own terms of service if they're intending to get rid of them.
Yes.
So as far as the company's concerned, they've done
everything clean and clear legally, 100%.
For this one person.
For this one person.
Right. As far as one company's concerned, they've done it correctly. Okay.
Yes.
But when you add into the fact that all of them did it together, that suggests another more nefarious suggestion.
I don't agree with that, and they all have claimed that that did not happen, that there was no colluding between these companies, that it just happened.
Okay. No, that's awesome. So you're saying if all you have to do is claim that there's no collusion, and then we're done, right? So the Mueller's investigation is over.
You're a fucktard.
I mean, all we have to do is claim, right? And then it's done.
Look, I guarantee you, it was not a collusion situation. I think it was 100% like, oh my god, they did it. Can we do this too? And everybody else is like, yes, we can. Let's get rid of this son of a bitch.
But that's the problem, okay? Because now they're getting rid of the son of a bitch, not because he's done anything in that moment, but because they just want to get rid of the son of the bitch. And they're lying now. They're lying to people. That's the problem. If there was a legitimate reason to get rid of him, that he actually violated the community strikes when they say he violated them, that would be one thing. But that's not what they claim that's what it is. But all of them doing it at the same time, all of them jumping at the same time, when 2 days ago he wasn't violating anything, he hasn't put out anything different in a long time, and now all of a sudden, boom! Oh well, look, he did a finger gun, and now he's gone.
That's exactly what happened, though. I mean, just finally, basically, Apple said they had enough. They're not doing it anymore, and then everybody else was like, you know what? We've had enough too. Fuck it, if Apple did it, we're gonna do it too.
And those are all virtue signals.
You got to realize, all these companies wanted to get rid of this guy because he was not making them money.
Then they get rid of him. But why did they issue statements about how evil he is?
They issued statements explaining why they got rid of him. They didn't say he was evil. They said he had violated multiple things, multiple content.
Why don't you read one of the statements from the dude?
Alright, I'm sure I've got statements here. So this is from YouTube. When users violate policies repeatedly, like our policies against hate speech and harassment, our terms prohibiting circumvention of enforcement measures, we terminate their accounts. So
what he says, what that person said, was not that he did that. Not that Alex Jones did that. He just said, when this happens, we do this. Not that Alex Jones did those things, but just that...
Again, they're remaining vague for legal reasons.
I understand that, but what does it suggest Alex Jones has done?
Hate speech, violence, things like that.
Does that sound like a good person? Does a good person do those things?
It does not sound like a good person, no.
Does it sound like you're a good person if you stop someone from doing those things?
Yes.
So, virtue signal.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they were looking to get points and save money at the same time.
Why didn't you read the Facebook one?
Right here.
Although, I'm surprised to say that the only, organization in the media sort of thing with balls, I suppose, is Twitter. I never thought I'd say that, but...
Well, Twitter's just under too much attack right now. Give them a couple more weeks.
Yeah, well, I really hope not, because it's hard to believe that Twitter would be the bastion of, non-censorship, but... Jesus.
Well,
or Facebook, the iTunes store.
To be honest, Facebook is kind of the bastion of non-censorship, man. It's a thing. You want to look up porn, go to Twitter.
Really?
Yeah. You can look up porn on Twitter, dude.
I know there was a child pornography scandal with Twitter.
Yeah,
or Facebook.
That wouldn't surprise me for either.
Or was it YouTube? I can't remember.
Let me see. I'm only going to get snippets because it's going to be a pain in the ass to find it anymore. But, let's see. While much of the discussion around InfoWars has been related to false news, which is a serious issue that we are working to address by demoting links marked wrong by fact-checkers and suggesting additional content, none of the violations that spurred today's removal were related to this. It is frivolous. That is extremely frivolous.
They're just pointing out that, oh, yeah, he's got a history of fake news.
No. I think they're more see, we're still doing something about that. We didn't forget about that.
It's a signal. It's we're still doing all this important stuff.
All right, final thoughts on this. What do you got?
Essentially, I understand that they are within their rights to do so. I think that it is, what would be the word? Unworthy, unjust, lacking scruples, dishonorable. There we go. Mm. These organizations have done something dishonorable, and I think that the public should punish them, not the government. No,
and I gotta say, this is a hard one for me to defend because I want there to be free and open internet, despite the fact that I don't like Alex Jones' content other than for a good laugh every once in a while. I don't like the fact that he tends to convince people the things that aren't true are true. I don't like any of those things, but the internet is a place for free discussion, for open ideas, and look, I'm for net neutrality. And this is kind of the same thing, just in a different arena. And I'm not saying that the internet needs to be regulated. I'm not saying that YouTube needs to be regulated or Google needs to be regulated. I'm trying to say that they need to look at what they're doing and understand that no matter how they just try to cite it, call it hate speech or whatnot, it's wrong what they're doing. It's still free speech, and they tend to forget that. So, yeah, this one sucked. So
I don't know. I had fun.
Yeah, no, I don't mean sucked for this. This one sucked for me because I'm sitting here trying to defend them when I don't agree with them at all. And
it's good that you tried.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't agree with the policy, but I do agree that it can happen. So. Alright, let's take a break and we'll get to our next topic here in a bit. cool. 3. Welcome back. Yeah. Woo. I'm terrible at these intro things. I'm gonna work on it, I promise. Or I'll just make you do all the work. How does that sound? You want to do the welcome back things? Come on. You know you do.
Hello, and welcome back to the Tales of the Uncle Tom and White Devil.
Oh, you can't say that. That's racist. You can't,
yeah, I know.
You can't say it out loud. You can just have it in words. If you have it
Look,
in
I'm
words,
sorry for calling
counts.
you a white devil, but what else am I supposed to call you?
I know. God, man. You should just call me, graham cracker or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, has anyone in your life actually called you a white devil? Because people have called me Uncle Tom.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Why?
Because I'm half black.
What? What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You're full of it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I don't believe it.
I'm blacker than Sean King.
Who the fuck is Sean King?
Ever heard of him?
No.
Type in Sean King.
What? Sean King. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Little sidebar moment here. Sean King. Sean King. Wait, that guy's black?
Supposedly.
No, you're lying.
No. I don't think that he's actually black. I'm saying that he thinks he's black.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently he's a decent writer, so black people are like, all right. And he's a bit of a black activist. Have you heard, there was this woman who claimed that she was raped by a police officer, and then they released the body cam footage, and it turned out not to be true?
Nah.
Well, the reason why it was such a big deal, except for you hearing about it, was because of Sean King. Sean King reported that, police officers would be beating up our black women and whatnot. Turns out she was lying.
You know what? Oh, you know what? Let's save our next topic for afterwards. Let's go right into the leftist racial conspiracy. Because since we kind of started off with talking about that. So, go ahead and give me your give me your idea behind this, because you have a lot more experience with this than I do.
I have a bit of experience. So here's the idea. Leftists have their own conspiracies. In a previous episode, I mentioned one, but here's another more, I guess, popular but more hidden one.
Elaborate.
Well, I'm working on that.
Oh, okay. Dead air.
Okay.
Dead air.
All right, thanks.
Dead air.
So,
Dead air.
Originally, the United States was created by Europeans.
Correct.
It was kind of the dumping ground for people who didn't want to be persecuted by the government, people who basically owed money to somebody, and the company bought the debt, and they would send them here to die, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of Irish people.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the United States was essentially started for white people.
Mm-hmm.
And this premise is the core of the white supremacy theory that the left holds, and is kind of dictating their policies. Not a lot of people realize this, but it's actually something that has been around since 1966, I think. Black Power movement.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, like the Black Panthers and shit like that.
Yeah. If you're ever curious about that, look up Dr. Derek Bell, Harvard University. The professor of Barack Obama. Like, I think his adjunct professor or whatever.
Okay.
And actually, supposedly, he started his presidential campaign from his home. I don't know if that's true. It's just something people say.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so because this country was started by white people, its institutions are based on the idea that it's supposed to benefit white people and no one else.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that is built in this country is started from that core, that seed, if you will, the seed of whiteness. And anything that produced from that seed that wasn't white didn't flourish as well as a white person could have. Now, eventually, the mechanisms of this sort of racism machine went into full speed, right?
Yeah.
That would be slavery. So
yes.
when the country first started, slavery wasn't really a thing. Then it started going.
Well,
the country, meaning the colonization, when it first started, it didn't really. Slavery
there
wasn't
were
there.
slaves back then. Slavery wasn't abolished by the British in America until the Revolutionary War. So there was slavery, but slavery wasn't nearly as big as it was until the early 19th century with the invention of the cotton gin. But before that, it was like there were slaves, but not really that many.
You are very wrong. Do you know how many slaves were ever imported to the United States?
I think it was like it was about 1 million. Well, in total, by like 1865, I think it was 1 million slaves in America.
Less than that, actually.
Yeah, it was like 800,000, give or take. Yeah,
more slaves actually went to the south of the United States, like the South America. Yeah, like 2 million slaves went there.
Yeah,
and
but pre-cotton gin, there was about 100,000 slaves in America. Post-cotton gin, again, by the Civil War, we were up to around 800,000 slaves. So before the cotton gin, slavery wasn't really a thing here. I mean, it was, but it wasn't as important.
I definitely don't think I can agree with that, but it doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is that the United States was made for white people, okay?
Yes, so correct.
The height of the power would be during slavery. And we can both understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the height of the power was during slavery, and even though there was this war for basically freeing the slaves, under this theory, the war wasn't necessarily for freeing the slaves. That was just something that happened. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, and ever since, the United States has been an ism that no one's manning the helm for.
Can you rephrase? Can you say that last sentence one more time? You cut out on that.
Okay. One. The United States has been an engine without a pilot of racism. So there is racism in the system. Very few people are manning the engines actively, consciously. Mm-hmm. The racism is invisible. It doesn't necessarily need to be anything called clans racism. Mm-hmm. It just has to be sort of the idea of racism. Like, did that person cut me off because I'm black? Like, that's invisible racism, and mm-hmm. that's because the system was originally made by white people.
Correct.
And that's white supremacy.
See, okay. So I'm assuming we're talking about modern day racism versus 1950s racism, or like 1950s racism was straight up, boy, you better get down here or whatever,
Yeah.
But so modern day racism is a lot more like, hey, I'm driving down the street and there's a car of black people. Yeah, I'm gonna roll up my window. Right?
Yeah, that's essentially correct. Although yes. That would be more. Here's the kicker: the person you're talking about, are they white, Asian, or Mexican?
Well, let's just go with white in my situation because that's more relevant.
Then it would be racist.
Yeah, but if the person was, let's say, if the person was Asian, it would still be racist. Incorrect.
Under the theory of white supremacy. There's also a component called power plus privilege, racism.
I've heard of this.
Okay. Under this theory of white supremacy, mm-hmm. only those people with institutional power, meaning the institution of white people, mm-hmm. Have the power to be racist. So if you do not have the power to be racist, you can never be racist. Meaning, if you're not white, you'll never be racist. If you are white, you're always going to be racist, and you don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything. You just exist, and you are racist.
Yeah, see, when we get down to things like that, I think it belittles real racism. Like, our racial problem nowadays isn't so much Klansmen gathering in the street. Our racial problem nowadays is people making decisions based on the race of someone else. So, again, mm-hmm. like my example, drive by the car and rolling up the window because you don't feel comfortable being in an inner city next to a car full of, black people. Like, that is clearly racist. No matter what race you are. Even if you're Hispanic Asian.
I'm afraid that's incorrect.
Yeah,
According to this theory, if that's a white person who the black person, so under this theory, black people are afraid all the time of white reprisal, white lashback, or white lash. And they are afraid that the white person is going to consider them to be a angry black person, and they will call the police, and the police will kill them. So,
but isn't there some truth to that part, though? I mean, like, if you were, I mean, you being a black person and all, or at least a mixed person, whatever the hell you are, have you ever had that kind of thought? Like, someone's going to judge you purely based on your race.
Mostly black people do this, yes.
Yes, but, I mean, have you ever had the thought? Like, have you had this fear? Like, before you became more educated and understood.
Yes, I've most of my life I've lived in fear of what black people would think of me.
Yeah, but what about white people?
No, I don't care.
So what, white people are completely pointless to you?
No, basically, I've always known that white people would judge me off of what I can do.
That ain't 100% true either way, though. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying I agree with this whole entire statement that you cannot be racist if you don't have power. But what I am saying is that people generally have a fear that they're going to be judged based on their race. Like, if, again, I'm walking down the street in the city and I see a group of black people who I think they're going to think, oh, man, I'm the nerdy white guy walking by. You know? Like, it happens. People think like that. It's not good, but it is the way it is.
So, are you asking me if I have... maybe I misunderstood the question. As it corresponds to judgment, being judged as a worthy or unworthy.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, straight up stereotyping is what I'm more meaning.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Under that regard, yeah, I've considered it.
Yeah. I don't think, like, I disagree with the concept that it takes power to be racist. And I don't like the fact that we've moved on to that whole ideology because I think it belittles the fact that there is still racism here in America. And there's racism on every side of the fence. Every single side. I mean, Jesus, have you seen Mexicans and blacks go at it before? It's insane.
See, under this theory, that is just prejudice because they're not white.
So, okay, well, at least if we're getting two different terms, but I still would rather call racist events racist, not prejudice.
Right, the problem is that they don't have power, so they can't be racist.
See, that isn't how the definitions were originally intended. So why is it that we're changing these definitions nowadays? It doesn't make much sense.
What about what's his name? Martin Luther King? He said that racism is power plus privilege.
Yeah, but Martin Luther King also said that racism's from every side, isn't it? Didn't he?
Say again, please.
Didn't Martin Luther King also say that racism can be found on every side?
All I know is that Martin Luther King experienced a lot of trauma in his life that was a result of white people abusing black people.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm doing? I'm avoiding answering that question by pointing out that black people...
But I swear to God, I'm not going to sit here and look for the exact thing, but I remember him saying something like that. Like, this isn't like a new concept or anything. Anybody can be racist. You know? You can be racist if you're white. You can be racist if you're black. You can be racist if you're Hispanic. You can be racist if you're Asian. I mean, geez, I find myself more... Like, I don't worry, like, about black people saying bad things about me, but I'll tell you, Asians, man, they judge you just as quickly as anybody, dude.
Yes, and in reality, I do understand that everyone can be racist, but under the theory of white supremacy, that's not true. See, there are 4 stages. Mm-hmm. There's the institution, there's the system, the systematic racism, there's institutional racism, there's social racism, and there's personal racism. Personal racism doesn't happen so much anymore.
Yeah.
But all the other forms of it
like
do
institutional
happen.
Racism and things like that. Yeah. Like
so,
getting pulled over and attacked by the cops or something.
Right. So one of the things that they'll bring up is the high prison population that is black.
Yes.
So that's racism.
Yeah, I would agree that that's racism, yes.
No, it's not racism. They commit crimes. They're in prison for commit crimes. It's not racism.
Yeah, but it's still... If... Okay, let's take a look at cocaine, okay? You know you get more time for doing crack cocaine than you do for snorting cocaine?
Do you know who's responsible for that?
White people.
Black people, too. Black people came to the white people and they say, help us. Our neighborhoods are full of crack cocaine.
All right.
And what they do is they beg and they plead. And social workers come in and they say, oh, man, look at these families torn apart. And then they go to their congressman. And those congressmen go to their senates. And they make these laws. And these laws punish the people who use crack cocaine. And they forget the people who would be punished would be black people. Do you know that Republicans tried to make sure that this law would not pass? That they tried to vote against it, but it didn't matter, because if they did vote against it, they were seen as unfeeling, uncaring to the black community because they needed help. They needed help. They needed the government to come in and punish the crack cocaine users.
All right.
White people didn't make that law. Black people did.
So you want to get into history now, man? Because this is an interesting whole concept here about the switch between Democrats and Republicans, because Republicans were the ones that freed the slaves. All right? And I remember earlier you being like, the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. Believe me, the Civil War had a shit ton to do with slavery. It was the biggest issue at the time. Name one other issue that was more important to start the Civil War than slavery.
Who said that the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery?
You said that. You said it had very little to do with it.
No, I said that many people think that the people who believe in white supremacy theory do not believe that the Civil War had much to do with slavery.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around.
They believe that slaves were released simply to bolster the northern armies, essentially. There's also components to that. But
they were released begrudgingly, but I mean, it wasn't like they didn't want to do it. They've been wanting to abolish slavery for a long time. I mean, this has been a Republican platform from day one when they first formed.
Well, do you know why?
Ending slavery.
It's thanks to the book Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Hey! See how we went circle
Uncle
there?
Tom's Cabin was a widely distributed book in the North. It was one of those books that you would be sitting next to the Bible. It was that popular.
Yeah.
And the sort of belief about the slave, or the noble slave, or I can't remember the actual technical, academic term for it, but the, I guess, Christ-like slave. Ultimately, Uncle Tom suffers terrible abuse and actually cares about his master. The real Uncle Tom actually was this sort of decent fellow that actually helped a lot of people, but it doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is that Uncle Tom's Cabin inspired many sort of people that weren't that close to slavery to romanticize the idea of freeing slaves, and that kind of unified people behind the concept of that being appropriate. Not to say that it was a universal thing, but it unified many people towards that goal. And there were still plenty of people who were like, black people are not equal, which is a fair point, because a majority of people would never run into a freed black man who had been educated.
Yeah.
And if they did run across a slave, then it was a very uneducated person, usually, because they wouldn't be allowed to read or be educated.
Sure.
So the only examples they had were basically, socially, mentally handicapped slaves that had been done that way so they wouldn't, be successful running away from the plantation and stuff. So it's a fair thing to think that even as a Republican, that black people would not be equal. If you have not seen an example of that, and your world is basically, they were slaves a second ago. Why the hell would they be? I've never been a slave. Why would I think that they would ever be my equal?
Yes.
I get that concept. I don't agree with it. I get it, though.
But because of all these bleeding heart Republicans during that time period, the bleeding heart Whigs, or whatever they were called back then, they decided to break off and start this whole different party called the Republicans. And Abraham Lincoln won the election. This pissed off people in the South.
And the North, but yeah. Yeah,
and in the North, yeah, definitely. A lot of people were pissed that he won. So the South straight up broke off from the United States almost within I think it was within a month of his inauguration. I'm not going to look up all these numbers, so forgive me if I'm a bit wrong.
Sounds real familiar.
Yeah, I know, right? So, Lincoln, as a way to unify the North, did the Emancipation Proclamation. He thought it would actually help get the North up and going and ready, like give them a fight. You know, like we are done with slavery. We're cutting it off here. We are ending it. This is going to be the main factor we're going to focus on from this point forward.
Well, there's also another component to that, and that would be that the what do you call that? He wanted to have the freed slaves that were freed men and freed slaves that were in the North that had not been fighting to the front lines as extra men because they had been taking terrible losses. So,
yeah, wasn't there that whole movie made about that, Glory or whatever?
Yeah, well, I mean, it did touch on it. Yeah. It was a whole movie about the black company that died in, I think, Fort Sumter or something. Anyway, they all died. But anyways, the whole thing is that they needed to bolster their forces, and they had an entire population that wasn't being used. So, yeah, they did free the slaves in the South for the purpose of making sure that they understood that if they won that war, and if they could contribute to their winning, that they would be free, because they were already free. There was no bargaining. It was essentially, boom, you're free. But the point that I brought up when I was having this discussion with a person who believes in white supremacy is, okay, so I get it. You're saying that Lincoln did a crafty thing and said, I'm going to free the slaves, and the slaves were like, yay, and the free black men were like, yes, I will fight and die for you. Okay, so if what you're saying is true and he was just using them, then why didn't he put them back in chains when he was done? And they're like, oh, no, he did, because in the Fourth Amendment it says you can imprison them, and you can imprison an American citizen.
What?
Yeah, you can imprison somebody, and that would be slave. It authorizes slavery in the form of being a prisoner.
Yeah, because you don't have any rights, correct. But
yeah,
they didn't, obviously.
Yeah, well, they tried to in the South. They tried to bust people on minor infractions and put them in jail, and then thus putting them back into slavery. That didn't last, though. Yeah. They actually stopped that. Yeah. They didn't. The person I was arguing with didn't mention that. I had to look that up myself. And then I also had to look up that basically our interpretation of that is based off of the dialectic change that occurred at some point that changes the phraseology of that term. So back in the day, that was something that they were even confused by, that they thought there was a loophole. But the Congress actually determined that that's not a loophole. That the only way you can become a slave is if you're a slave of essentially a crime. And you can't be sort of parceled out without pay. Like even now, prisoners can't do work without pay.
No, they have to be paid now. Yeah.
Right, because they're not slaves. They're American citizens who are serving punishment.
Although they pay them shit wages, but yeah.
But regardless, that's where it came from, because they thought they found a loophole to make slaves again, convicting them of crimes, putting them back into slavery. That was just one of those things that had to be worked out in a law that had never been made before. And anyways, under the white supremacist theory, that was all just a clever ruse to free the blacks in order to put them into a new kind of slavery. That would be prisons and debt.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Keep on going.
Okay, so debt essentially was that a lot of times people didn't think about where the slaves would go, and they basically had nowhere else to go because they were on the plantations. They'd lived there, and that's all they had ever known. Harriet Tubman even spoke about how she would have freed more slaves had they known they were slaves. Yeah. And a lot of times, I'm not saying they had good conditions, but what would you take, the known or the unknown? I guarantee you.
To be honest, I can see the simplicity of just going to work, coming home, not having to worry about bills, anything like that, you know?
Yeah, and in many of these plantations, they weren't even told that there was a war. So one day the master comes over and says, go, get out of here.
Yeah, a lot of them just basically were paid a quarter to work, a week, do a week of work afterwards,
Right.
And there was a time period like that. I mean, if you look at, like, the railroad workers during the 1870s and the 1880s, it was, they would pay black people, like, a tenth of what they were paying white people.
Yeah.
And they were making all the white people the bosses, and it was basically just another form of slavery. But at the same time, as the years went on, things started to get better.
Do you know why?
Because of policy changes, civil rights, things like that.
Incorrect. It's basic capitalism. Okay. So let's just say, for example, slavery's over, right? By the way, slavery had many policies to keep it going. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like slaves couldn't do certain things in the South without permission from the government. Anyways, doesn't matter. But so essentially, all right, so you have this group of people, okay, and they're all getting paid $5 an hour, right? And keep in mind, there's no minimum wage, right? Yeah. What keeps you from lowering their wages?
You want to keep them working, or you want to keep them paying for goods too.
Well, no, don't worry about the goods. Just you paying them $5 an hour, or back in the day, they would pay you for a full day's work. But yeah. Let's just say it's $5 a day, right, which would probably be too much, but it doesn't matter. $5 a day. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't I lower it to $4?
I assume that you want to keep employees.
They'd leave, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what if there's another person who comes along, another group of people who will come and they'll work for $3 an hour?
Well, then you got the Chinese.
Or the blacks. And that's what kind of purpose they served.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're a good point. No, that's a good point. Then unions came around about the 20s or so and kind of helped fix that. Yeah, beat the shit out of them. You're right. Yeah. There was a lot of mafia stuff going on there. Too. Yep.
Yeah, lynchings.
Yep. They took our jobs. It always starts with that, man.
Well, yeah, essentially.
But I can see how that can come in direct conflict with the whole ideology of, you can't be racist without power, because you're literally talking about two groups of people who have no power fighting against each other, and then the real people who do have power sitting there and taking the money. Like, there's a great story about this, okay?
Hold on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you noticed that you said the real people that have power?
Yeah, the company owners, for example. You don't see the company owners being racist because, heck, they're making money off of it. Like nowadays, you don't see company owners sitting there and saying, let's get rid of all them darn Mexicans because they can use them as cheap labor.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's still a problem.
Do you know who they would be or should be using as cheap labor?
No one.
Basically, black unskilled labor. That's what's being replaced.
Oh yeah, nowadays, yeah.
Yeah. So when Mexicans come into the country,
or they could just pay their employees more money. There's a good old adage.
We already covered that. What happens when you pay your pay your employees too much, your business loses, and you lose your entire business.
I gotta disagree with that in a few different ways.
Oh, really? But so you're saying your job could pay you more? Everyone in your company?
Yes.
Okay, and they wouldn't hurt?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. But the way my job works is a bit differently when it comes to pay. They do surveys to determine pay.
It doesn't matter. They could pay you all, like, what, $5 more an hour, right?
I assume so. Yeah, probably.
Maybe 10?
I don't know if they could do 10, but $5 an hour.
Wait, hold on a second. Why 5, not 10?
I'm just saying they could make a pretty generous increase in our wages, but I'm not going to get into that on here.
Because, hey, it's a company, right?
Yeah, but it's also my company. Don't want to discuss.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I don't want to discuss my company on live air. You know what I mean?
We're talking about a theoretical company.
Yeah, okay. But theoretical company. Most companies right now, they do something where they survey other companies in the area, and they all determine what the average pay wage should be.
Right. So that means.
And then they go based on that. Some companies pay a bit more based on that. Some companies pay a bit less based on that. But most companies, they all pay about the same.
I don't understand why they need that. Why don't they just pay them, like, everyone, like, I don't know, $100 an hour?
Because they're trying to get away with spending as little as money as possible to keep employees in the area.
Wait, you said keep employees? That doesn't matter. They can just take out another loan, right?
No. That isn't how it works. And it isn't about lack of money. It's about making more money.
We should have minimum wage that's like $100 an hour. That way, everyone will have everything they need. They'll be like they'll be like the 1% themselves. We make everyone in the country
way off topic here. Here, okay.
No.
Real quick. I gotta say this, okay? Since we're on this subject, real quick. So, let's this is a good old joke, okay? 3 guys walk into the bar, okay? One's the CEO of a company, or owns the company, you know? The other guy is one of his labor employees, or one of his union employees, okay? And the other guy is one of his non-union employees, alright? He sits down, orders 10 drinks, alright? In fact, he orders the last 10 drinks at the bar. There's only 10 drinks left, okay? And orders all 10 drinks. Hands the union guy 1. Looks over at the other guy, or hands the guy 2. The union guy 2. Hands the other guy 1. And the other guy's like, why did you only give me 1? He's like, I don't know. You better go ask that union guy why he jacked your other beer. What? Come on. That's funny.
No, sorry, you cut out there. You said, why did you only hand me 1?
Yeah, the guy was like, why'd you only hand me 1 beer? And he's like, I don't know, but that union guy over there jacked your other beer.
That's pretty funny.
It's true, though, man. They pit workers against each other for their own gain.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And that's why we get all this, anti... We start going against these other races because of this ideology of pitting worker against worker. I mean, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying about the time periods, especially in the 20s and 30s, once the unions got involved, where they started attacking the cheap labor. Yeah, well, if that labor was paid a better wage, of which they were paying beforehand, why is it that we can't just pay that same wage for everybody and get them all on an equal footing?
Because they can't afford it.
Well, if they can't afford it, then they shouldn't be in business.
So that's what you're saying about your business. If they can't
I'm not saying anything about my business.
Again, we're talking about a hypothetical business.
Okay, hypothetical
that's
business.
What we're saying about your hypothetical business.
Yeah,
okay?
A hypothetical business. Yeah.
To pay what you were suggesting.
Exactly.
Then they should.
Then they should be fired.
They should go out of business.
They should go out of business.
That's what you're saying.
That is what I'm suggesting.
Okay, so then no one has a job. That's what you want.
No, I only want I want employees to have a standard of living. No job should be paying less than what a standard of living costs.
How do you know they're not wasting their money?
What do you mean wasting their money?
Buying drugs, buying alcohol, buying rims on their car.
Who are we talking about? The businesses or the employees?
The people who use their money.
Well, they can spend on whatever they want. But I'm just saying there should be...
Let me get this straight.
There should be a standard for... First off, minimum wage was designed to be a standard of living.
Which didn't work.
No, it has helped. It's only went downhill since then.
Why has inflation rose with minimum wage?
Inflation rises one way or another, but it has risen a lot with minimum wage.
But here's the theory.
But that doesn't make it white supremacy.
No, that is what it is. Okay. Under white supremacy, institutionalized racism is the same, is the product of white supremacy. It's because the country was made for white people. This is the product. So what do you think institutional racism is?
It's generally when, like, when a person of a lower class or a lower of a race that is not white... I get what you're saying.